Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Three-Man Week College Basketball Show presented by SportsbookReview.com. Look at us, all dressed up, professional, manicured, showered. Turd Ferguson has been replaced by his initial predecessor. I can't even speak this morning. Ky McKeon is back. Jim, you're back. I'm back. We're all back. Those outcast characters that you saw earlier this last weekend are gone. They're dead and buried. So yeah, the takes have been well baked, and we have many of them coming to you today as we break down Sweet 16 action. But as we should mention, today is specific to the Saturday slate. We will hit all of the Sunday games tomorrow, and then come back at you Monday, Tuesday next week, day of Elite Eight action, getting some timely takes after we have the results from the weekend. But first, that was a lot of wild topsy-turvy results from the opening weekend. Jim, I know you have some initial learnings you'd like to share with the folks. Please, do tell.
Well, just in addition to the take that I already knew and you two discovered, that 7 a.m. Pacific is quite early, and some would argue too early, but it was a wild opening weekend. Yeah, we have 4 double-digit seeds here in the Sweet 16, and only one of the Elite Eight matchups, one of the Sweet 16 matchups is the true seed, where it's 1-4 or 2 versus 3. So we've got some teams coming through semi-upsets throughout the entire bracket. Sure, 2 of them are 1 versus 5, and that's about as close to 1 versus 4 as you can get, but I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear technicalities. It's only 1 out of the 8 that are the true seed matchup. So that was my surprising takeaway. Ky, what do you got?
I got Oral Bob, man. I just amazing that they're in the Sweet 16, first team since Florida Gulf Coast, second team ever as a 15 seed to make it this far. I'm going to keep rooting for him, Matt. Go Golden Eagles.
Yeah, for me, it's Oregon State. I've been basically touting how overrated this team is for the last few weeks, and all they continue to do is make me look like a bigger and bigger fool at each game. We will lead off quite shortly here with that matchup. I guess we'll find out if I'm going to go back against the well. But, man, Wayne Tinkle, what they did to Oklahoma State and Tennessee, too, arguably underseeded teams, teams that had serious deep run potential with how we saw the Vols play earlier in the year and how good we've seen Cade and co play lately. No one could have seen that coming. If you did, I don't believe you. But we will talk about that game right now. Let's just get right into it here. Only 4 games on this short and sweet slate. Loyola Chicago, the Sister Act Part 2 against Oregon State, the Beavers. 2 darlings so far here. No, I bet that from, I think Barstool had a local, kind of like the Whoopi Goldberg type knockoff. Yeah, very well done there. So I should probably source all references. Thank you for doing so. I don't want to get any copyright infringement there. But the Blurs, Ky, they saw some of this tricky zone that they're going to see against Oregon State in the first round. That gives me confidence that they're not going to be stymied by all the junk defenses that Tinkle has thrown so far in the last few weeks. What they did in the Pac-12 tournament, what they've done in the first 2 rounds. Surely there's enough game tape out there where Porter Moser and the boys can prepare and not look so shell-shocked as we saw Tennessee and Oklahoma State look offensively. Do you agree?
Maybe. Georgia Tech was missing Moses Wright. Let's not forget. Their best player by far. Loyola is a great team, but their offense can be stagnant at times, and I actually think the Beavers' defense can bother them. I've watched Loyola a couple times. You remember that Drake game when they scored, 0 points in 14 minutes or whatever it was? This team can get stagnant. Oregon State can defend. 0.9 points per possession against Oklahoma State, 0.84 against Tennessee. And Oregon State's last 5 wins, Jim, Oregon, Colorado, UCLA, Tennessee, Oklahoma State, that's ridiculous. This team's legit right now, firing on all cylinders. I don't think they win this game, but 6.5 points is plenty. I'm taking the Beavers.
Yeah, I'm torn on what to do with the side. If I had to take a bet on this, it would be the under. I think Oregon State struggles to score. Matt, the interesting thing I looked up with zone usage for Oregon State, because I've been thinking that's been their key go-to. They've only been using it for like half or less than half of possessions so far. And against Oregon and Colorado in the Pac-12 tournament, they used it for 4 possessions and 3 possessions, respectively. So they haven't been all zone defensively. They've been pretty consistently strong in man-to-man too. He's been very, let's mix it up. Let's use it against the teams that will struggle with it. And I mean, it's hard to say. Will Loyola struggle with the zone because Krutwig is so strong at that free throw line spot? If you get it to him, he can score with floaters, he can hit cutters, he can hit shooters. And honestly, he had a quiet game against Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
10 points, no assists. His first game with no assists since January 10th, which was kind of wild to see. They got great productivity from Braden Norris, from Lucas Williamson on the perimeter. Keith Clemens hit some big shots too. That was almost like more encouraging to me than seeing Krutwig have yet another big game. It was like, okay, national stage, the Loyola guards are winning them a game. Well, their defense mostly won them that game, but offensively they scored over 1 point per possession, actually 1.2 against the Georgia Tech zone, and it was mostly because of their guards. So there's a lot to look at with this matchup. I think both coaches will tinkle and tinker with their respective strategies here, but I expect a half-court game, and I expect both teams to struggle to score somewhat.
Yeah, we'll get to the value line early movement. There hasn't been much, but just want to make sure we kind of close with that lens. Yeah, Jim, to your matchup point, I would think if I'm Wayne Tinkle, I'm going more zone than man. I know we saw Loyola play well against the Georgia Tech zone. We know they are an unselfish team, a well-coached team that's capable of adapting to a zone. But just given the sheer familiarity that they have running offense against man defense, predominantly what they see in the Missouri Valley, how lethal Krutwig can be when he touches it at the high post, the low block, and they just run cutters off of them, get that handoff action for Williamson and Marcus Kennedy. He's really been my kind of, I see Job Gunderson talking in the chat. He's really been the X factor. I would agree. I think what he does on both ends is critical. But anyway, to line value here, fellas, 6.5, 7, depending on where you look, according to the SPRoddspage.com. Remember, folks, always have that open on your second browser, tablet, whatever have you. It does feel high, Ky. Yes.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to move on to the next game. I don't mean to cut you off. I just said we should talk about total as well. Why not?
We should. Yeah, let's get both sides here. Since we only have 4 games and a lot of runway to do so, I'm going to be on the Blurs at -6.5. I locked in at 6, and I bought the hook. I think it'll be a low possession game, low scoring game, so those half points are slightly more amplified than in a higher possession type spot here. Doesn't feel great laying a fairly large number against this feisty Beaver squad, Ky, but I just think this feels like a Virginia crockpot type thing where the final score, as I mentioned on our podcast last night, 65-50 or something like that.
So you took Loyola, or you took?
I took Loyola.
You took Loyola. Okay.
The Blurs.
I see. Yeah, I mean the total's 125. That's very, very low. 7 points, 6.5 points. It makes me feel even better about it. Jim, I guess I lean under, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, both their first couple games were barely over this number. Loyola managed 71. The scores are almost identical: 71-60, 71-58.
Yeah.
Kind of bizarre. It's just like, hey, this is how Loyola wins games. I mean, they beat Illinois by double digits. They can certainly do that to Oregon State. But yeah, I don't have a strong side take. I would, like I said, lean towards the under on the total if I had to bet one.
All right, let's keep going down the outline. Villanova, Baylor. The next matchup here we'll talk about. Like the Loyola Oregon State opener and early movement, not a lot of it. To be quite succinct here. Open at -6. I'm sorry. Wow, I'm seeing some steam up to 7. I don't think I even realized that. It's up to 7.5.
7.5. Yeah.
I've been looking at the wrong line on my SPR odds page. Shame on me. I need a little ruler to be able to trace across the screen here. But yeah, so a lot of Baylor action here. I kind of agree with it. I don't know if I like it at this current number. Jim, from a value perspective, I definitely endorse. If you're a Villanova believer, if you think this team has figured out how to play without Colin Gillespie, which the first 2 games of this tournament certainly indicates that they have, I argue the Wildcats have a slice of value here. No,
I liked Baylor. I took this -6 at an early opening line, and I endorsed it at -7 later. So I still think I would probably go Baylor at -7.5. Yes, Villanova looked very, very good so far this tournament, but that was against a 12 seed and a 13 seed, and now they're playing the second best team in the country. So that is a bit of a rude awakening for really Villanova. Since losing Gillespie, has not played a top 70 team, unless you're really counting Georgetown up there, which perhaps they are. Definitely not a top 50 team at this point. So this is a complete, huge step up in competition for them. Got to figure out a way to create shots against this Baylor defense. And if you throw Davion Mitchell at Justin Moore as their primary creator, that's a problem because he's one of the best on-ball defenders in the country. So once again, they're going to play through Jeremiah Robinson Earl. But is he that big of a mismatch in this one against Mark Vidal? An All-American caliber defender, and He has the strength to battle with Robinson Earl and the quickness to stick with him. Maybe not quite the length to bother him shooting over the top, but if you can force Robinson Earl to do that all game, then you're probably having long-term success. So, yeah, the lean is to Baylor here. I don't love that it's over 7.5, or sorry, over 7 now, but that would still be where I'd go with this one, Ky.
Well, Matt, to address your first point, have they figured it out without Colin Gillespie? I don't know if we can really say that. They played 4 games. They lost to Georgetown and Providence. They were admittedly impressive against Winthrop, but North Texas was just a very, very, very favorable matchup for them. I'm not that impressed necessarily by that win. This is by far the biggest test. Obviously, Baylor's the second best team in the country. And we're talking about elite of elite in this game. Their ball handling's been awesome, but it's going to be put to the test against a Baylor team that turns you over at the 3rd best rate in the entire country. And then, Matt, Villanova's defense has been really bad this year. 71st overall. They're just kind of soft. When I think about Villanova's defense, I think soft. Very low 3-point attempt rate in terms of 3 points allowed. They allow a lot of them. That's bad against a Baylor team that leads the country in 3-point percentage. Yeah. I think Baylor's going to beat them by double digits. I'm on Bears. I would take -7.5.
Yeah, no, it's a good matchup point, Ky. I think Nova has to pick their poison here defensively. What we saw Baylor really exploit Wisconsin dribble drive. I think Nova's more equipped to guard that. But if they're going to sag and make that shell, park the bus around the lane, you're right. Baylor can shoot it with range, and they have multiple guys who can knock down shots. We really haven't seen Adam Flager go bananas yet. We know he's sort of that lurking X factor that can go for 15, 20 if you forget about him. So a lot of matchup points in Baylor's favor. The more we talked about this so far, I think the early value was maybe on Baylor's side, but I don't know, man. It's just tough to look at Villanova catching 7 points on neutral and look away from that. So that's my devil's advocate take, and for that reason, I will be a Matty Fence rider once again. Any other final thoughts here before we move on to the Oral Bob Cinderella story?
Well, let's talk total quick, Matt, because this got bet up from 139 to 142. So people are definitely
like the over. Okay.
Looking at the over. I mean, I think it makes sense. Like Ky mentioned, Villanova really struggling on D. The one thing I would say there is that Villanova's biggest weakness on defense is just you can exploit them in the paint. They don't have a rim protector at all. So that needs to be via dribble drive. And I think that's probably why that 3-point attempt rate is so high, because they're like, look, we can't stop anybody if you get to the rim, so we have to keep you away from there. And Baylor doesn't play through the post at all, at all. So that is one slight advantage to Villanova's defense. But I just think that, if the pick your poison battle that you said, where they've got to either squeeze the paint and allow threes or give up drives to the exposed rim, is too much of a problem. And Villanova can probably score enough to get to that over. So I would probably side with this team there, even where it's at right now on 42.
I like the over as well. Do you guys agree with Joe Kidd that JRE and Samish are the best athletes in the floor tomorrow night? I don't agree with that.
No, I think Mark Vital and David Mitchell would have some to say about that.
I don't think JRE's game is super athleticism.
No, he's not very athletic at all.
It's a super. he's solid.
He's like more an old man game type guy.
Mega skill, yeah.
But yeah, we can debate that for another show. I guess I lean over too. I worry about the pace. I could see Nova keeping this to a crawl and Baylor being a willing participant. But yeah, I think both teams score efficiently, which definitely bodes well for the over. All right, to the Oral Bobs. The Eagles against Arkansas. Ky, I'm going to go to you here first because you were correct in the Matt v. Ky head-to-head Colgate versus Arkansas. Jim, I know you also agreed with Ky, but I think Ky was the more boisterous Pig Suey backer. I bring that up because I do think this matchup carries some similarities. Or Robertson, Colgate, two mid-majors that want to play fast, that can put up points in bunches, but there are questions on the other side of the ball. Ky, you look at that spread and what it closed against Colgate, right around 10-9, depending on where you got it. Some even it dropped to 8.5 late. This one, the Oral Roberts Eagles are catching 11 points. So the odds makers implying that this is a worse team than Colgate. I guess from that angle, do you sort of agree with that? And then how does that play into the whole matchup lens?
Well, first, I'm riding Max Asmus here. Oral Bob's defense has been massively improved, which I'm sure you guys will touch on in your points here. Arkansas, obviously impressive, but got down by 14 to Colgate, got down to 10 to Texas Tech. I don't see any reason Oral Bob can't make a similar run, which gives them a better chance to stay within double digits, which would, of course, be the cover. The concern for Oral Roberts in this game is they will run with Arkansas. They have no issue doing that. That scares me. High possession games against Arkansas scare me. That's why I was scared to bet Colgate. That's why I bet Arkansas against Colgate. And the Hogs certainly have a better answer for O'Banner than Oral Roberts' first two opponents. Arkansas is a lot more versatile on defense, have more versatile big men, Connor Vanderveer aside. The one thing I like about Jim, about Oral Roberts, 15th in the country in turnover rate. Absolutely huge against a Razorbacks team that will pressure you. So I do like Oral Bob quite a bit here at +11.
Yeah, I'm hesitant because the Gulf Coast momentum or steam ran out pretty quickly, I think, in the Sweet 16 round when faced with top shelf competition. But look, that's one example. I probably shouldn't even think about that one. Don't even dwell on it, Jim. I agree though with Matt that this is similar to Colgate or Roberts. I think their defense might actually have more of a chance than Colgate's. They're a little more athletic. Colgate, again, they didn't play a single non-conference game, so like saying that they're higher in KenPom than Oral Roberts probably doesn't hold a whole lot of weight. And I just think we talked about it a little on our own pod, the value on the line, where if it was 9 for Colgate and you're getting 11 and a half for Oral Roberts, that's probably the way I'd lean. And Arkansas has gotten down double digits in both of their tournament games so far, early in the first half. If they do that, and it's just tough to come back against this Oral Roberts team with the way they've been hitting shots. Ohio State kept trying to do it. They kept throwing punches, and Oral Roberts just punched right back. They've got 2 elite scorers. So, yeah, I'm going to lean towards Oral Bob here too, Matt.
Yeah, I'm going to take Oral Bob, official show play, I guess, if we're still tallying those and keeping records. But I mentioned at the onset why I think this spread's a little bit inflated. I keep going back to the Colgate comparison. I think Jim made the right point. Oral Roberts is better equipped to defend Arkansas at a higher level. They're also more equipped to deal with Arkansas's dial up to 11 level pressure than I think Colgate was. Multiple ball handlers who can make shots over length, which you'll have to do against Arkansas's individual defenders. I also like that there's sort of that backdoor cover, avenue that seems to play in ORU's favor just with the amount of threes they can hit. It's going to be tough to keep this team buried by 15. So sort of have that in my back pocket as an ORU backer. So official play for me. Total real quick here. I have no strong take. I see it sitting at 159, 160 at some places, bet down a little bit from the opener at 161. Ky, any total lean here for you? Over.
Yeah. It's going to be close to 80
points.
Absolutely.
Yep. Over feels like the spinny obvious play. But I tend to think that seems to be the right one.
There's one thing I'll say there is I think we all liked over in Oral Roberts, Ohio State. Did not hit, mostly because Ohio State couldn't shoot, but that even went to overtime, didn't hit. And we like the over in Colgate, Arkansas, and it also did not hit. So, maybe leaning into that too hard is incorrect, but it feels like an over game to me as well.
All right, last game here on the outline, Syracuse versus Houston. I'm looking at my third play of the day here, just a quick teaser. I'll reveal what I like, but I'm going to Ky here for his opening thoughts. The Cougars versus the Orange. I mean, Syracuse, the Jim Boeheim NCAA tournament thing. We warned people it's real, and sure enough, here they are in the Sweet 16. The question is, does the magic ride continue? Is Buddy Boeheim going to continue to make shots from 30 feet? Will the Cougars find a way to defend them? We know if there's any weakness in Houston's defense, it's they sometimes allow threes, but I'd argue that's just like Virginia's defense. Just because you look at their low 3-point percentage defense does not mean they got lucky. They just defend you like gangbusters. Can Syracuse exploit anything here against Houston's defense?
I think it's a matchup nightmare for Syracuse. Nightmare. Houston shoots a ton of threes. They make them at a high clip. Obviously, Syracuse gives up a lot of threes in their zone, Matthew, and it's not like a Houston giving up a three. Right? It's 2-3 zone. It's designed to do that. Houston, second best rebounding team in the country on offense. Syracuse, 340th in defensive rebounding. I mean, that end should be a turnstile for Houston. They're going to score pretty much at ease. Even with Giroux kind of hobbled, I think Houston scores pretty easily in this game. But, Jim, I don't see Syracuse scoring easily at all. Houston shuts down isolation. They shut down shooters coming off screens. Very good defending both those actions. So I think Houston has a big advantage on both ends of the floor. I love Houston -6.
Yeah, Syracuse can shoot over the top. It's just how do they create good shots? That's kind of the thing. I mean, you have to either beat somebody one-on-one, which maybe they can, because Houston then will swarm penetration. They protect the paint at all costs, and they think, we'll challenge you with long closeouts with our athletes and challenge you there. And like you said, Matt, that's kept their 3-point percentage defense low year after year, like top 15 in the country year after year. It's not a fluke. But Buddy Boeheim, quick release. He's tall. He can get it off against anybody. It's not like he's going to be totally phased by length. He's hit 13 threes already this tournament, which is absurd. Syracuse as a team has hit 29, I believe, or 27. No, I'm sorry, 29, 15 and 14 in the first two games, which, like, if they're going to hit 14 threes again, they'll probably cover. But I just don't think that'll happen. I think the Houston defense is a little better at competing here. And one thing we always talk about with Boeheim's like wizardry in the tournament is the short turnaround with the second round and then the Elite Eight.
Right.
You don't have time to prepare for the zone. But Samson has a full week here, and they saw some zone in the American against Tulsa and Tulane and a couple other teams. Cincinnati and Memphis also showed a bunch of it. So I think they'll be okay against that. You do have to go inside out because of the way they extend the zone. It's almost like a 4-1 rather than a 2-3. So they've got to go inside. They've got to get some hits at the free throw line. But I think they can do that. And then I can't turn away from the offensive rebounding. I think Houston, I compared it in my written preview that'll go on the site. North Carolina grabbed 54% and 56% of their misses in two games against the zone. Like, Houston's going to grab 50% or more of their misses, which that's a problem against Syracuse's zone. And Houston's guards are better than UNC's. So I'm a Houston guy here too.
Yep, Houston -6 for me. I'm locking this in. One concern I have, Ky, you brought up the Giroux injury. It sounds like he's going to be close to 70%, even though he really has not been in practice much so far. And I need to do some research to update that report.
He did grind out 32 minutes in round 2 after the 1 minute he played in round 1. So that was impressive.
And very impressive and encouraging, I guess, to know that even if he is a little hurt, he will play here. I think about Giroux as more of a driver, a slasher, but you look at the percentages, he's actually their second best shooter this year on a percentage basis. Quentin Grimes has basically shot or made every shot he's thrown up this season. Marcus Sasser is really the shooting specialist. He's been a little bit in a shooting funk, only at 33%. I think Giroux could be important as sort of a guy they put in the middle of the zone or maybe at the top to spray it around to Grimes and Sasser, who are going to have to hit shots. Again, we talked about there's that sort of fail-safe of Houston crashing the glass relentlessly and just getting all their misses, but it would certainly help here as a Houston -6 backer if the Cougars actually knock down those open looks. And then Cam Tyson, of kind of forgotten bench guy, really a one-trick pony. I could see him scratching some minutes here as well. I also like the over. We're quick on the total. I do think both teams can score efficiently, and I think it does play a little more up-tempo than maybe, I don't know, you might be inclined to think. It just seems like Houston has that grinded-out type of, aura that would fool people. But I do think this is a faster-paced game, and both teams actually will score here, Ky.
I like the under. I think Syracuse has a tough time scoring. I think Houston controls the pace.
I have very little take on the total. So 140. The West Virginia game had 147, and I would say it squeaked over kind of. So I would probably lean towards under, but I am not betting the total, to be very clear.
All right, let's quickly. Oh, Ky, do you have something to say?
I was going to say, people keep asking for an IT. So here we go. Ready? Richmond +2.5, Colorado State +2, Memphis -4.5, and Western Kentucky pick. Those are my 4 picks. I basically just picked them at random. Those are it. Good luck.
I like Rams. I like Hilltops. Who else did you say?
I'm Memphis -4. I'm going and Mississippi State against Richmond. So I agree with Ky on 3 of them. Our difference is Mississippi State and Richmond in that one. Hey, Louisiana Tech's point guard Kobe Williams is getting healthier. We don't know about Blake Francis and Grant Golden, so we don't have a ton of take to that there. That's look at that, guys. We did a little bit of the NET. We gave some picks.
We're so adaptable. Getting out of our anti-NIT shell. All right, going to quickly recapping the official plays here. I have 3 for the first round. I mentioned Loyola -6. I did buy that half point at -20. So if you can get that, I would advise. Again, I just think that half point might come back to help you in the event if it's a free throw game down the stretch there. Oral Roberts at +11.5 and Houston at -6. Ky?
Oregon State +6.5, Baylor -7.5, Oral Roberts +11, Houston -6. Houston -6, my best.
Right in the board, man. Get that Tommy gun.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I bet every game in the tournament.
What's going on with that?
You got to. I agree.
I'll stick with Baylor -7.5, even at the current number. Not super serious about it, or super excited about it being over 7. Like I said, I'm gonna skip the Oral Roberts Arkansas game, even though I do lean Oral Roberts. I'll take Loyola Oregon State under 125.5, and Houston -6. So those will be my 3. For best bet, I'll go with Baylor -7.5.
I guess I'll go with Oral Roberts as my best bet. Ky, I'll give you Houston. I assume that's what you want if you want to dub a best bet here.
I did say it, so yes.
You did say best bet. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I must not have heard you.
That's all right.
Any final comments, questions from the chat want to react to before we sign this sucker off?
I did see someone ask about hedging a Loyola Chicago Final Four ticket, and I'm having I would rather be hedging that than my to win the championship ticket, just because it could get really, really expensive hedging them if they play Baylor and Gonzaga in the semis and finals. I'll probably back Oregon State a little bit here just because the money line is like +250 and you can get out of it pretty easy. It's great when they're the favorite, easy to hedge off when they're the favorite. So I'll probably do a little on Oregon State and then go round by round. I don't have like a full strategy laid out for all 4 games yet.
Jimmy, I was thinking about this. Are you going to go spread hedge or money line hedge?
For this one, I will probably go money line hedge, just because it is +250. And then I probably won't be able to go spread hedge the rest of the way unless they get Syracuse and Oral Roberts. So.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that too. I think I've done spread hedging in the past, and that hedge just seems like a very greedy move. You're just rooting for that middle, but in reality, you should probably just go ahead and go money line. All right, nothing else. Let's wrap this sucker up. We'll be back tomorrow, like I said, to talk about the Sunday slate. But before you do anything, always make sure you're checking out the great content that our overlords at SPR are putting out there. SPRpicks.com/March-Madness, provided so conveniently above us right here above you. Make sure you check out all that content, all the picks, expert analysis they are hosting there. The SPRoddspage.com continues to be your friend. NIT, NCAA tournament action. It's all up there for you. But until tomorrow, we'll be back same time. Good to be back. Fresh.
Hit the like button.
Hit the like button. Smash it. Just don't break your keyboard. Until next time, tomorrow. Take care.